Hi, it's Amy from Select Travel Holidays. I hope you're enjoying our virtual touring and destinations festival. Throughout this festival, we've featured a lot of different presentations from our touring partners, many of which have looked at particular destinations such as Australia, New Zealand. We've looked at parts of Asia, particularly China and Japan and Southeast Asia, and we've also looked at the likes of South America. Well, I like to think we've basically taken you more or less around the world. And I hope you've been enjoying those presentations. We've also had some particular focuses on the likes of solo travel, adventure travel, or traditional escorted touring, and I hope you've enjoyed all of those presentations. For this part now, what we've done is we've selected some of the leading experts in the touring and adventure sector and put them on a panel, and I like to think that what we've tried to do is get a nice sort of range of touring partners involved who perhaps represent different audiences or different types of touring, as another little example of how diverse this sector is. So for example, we've got Saga for the more mature traveller, we've got Just You for solo travellers obviously, we've got the adventure travel sector represented by G Adventures, and we've also got some premium and luxury as well. So you know, obviously touring and adventure is a broad church, but I've brought these people together to share our passion for this type of holiday, this you know, touring or adventure. So I brought them all together to discuss some topics such as busting myths about touring and adventure, talking about some of the advantages and benefits, looking at how some touring companies resumed some select tours, I think at the start of late summer, early autumn last year when they started opening up some of the travel corridors. We've had a look at how they were able to do that safely and what their customers thought of those tours. So I hope you enjoy our panel of experts. I certainly enjoyed chatting to the team, to the panel, and it was definitely a very interesting and informative chat, and hope you enjoy it. Hi, so I'm Amy from Select Travel Holidays, and welcome to our panel of experts on touring and adventure travel. Thanks everyone for joining us at home, and also for the experts. So I'm going to introduce them all now. Firstly, we have representing adventure travel, we have Brian Young, the Managing Director for the EMEA area for G Adventures. G Adventures are the largest adventure travel company, started in I think the early 90s by Bruce Poon-Tip, and they're also a massive social enterprise as well. We also have Giles Hawke, the CEO for Cosmos and the Globus family of brands, which also includes Avalon Waterways. For the solo travellers, we have the lovely Sarah Wheatman from Just You and their sister brand Travelsphere. And for the more mature, we have Ian Powell, who is Head of Sales from Saga, who have been specialising in touring for the over 50s for over 60 years now. Although, of course, they've revitalised with their Keep Doing mantra. And we also have Rachel Coffey, who is the MD for Trafalgar, Insight Vacations and Luxury Gold, who are part of the Travel Corporation, which is a massive family-owned, I think there's over 40 brands, isn't there, of touring, hospitality, even river cruising. But you're looking after Trafalgar, and particularly we'll be looking at Insight Vacations and Luxury Gold as you're sort of representing the premium and luxury touring side. And then last but not least, we have Claire Brighton, who is the accounts director of ATAS. Now, Claire, you're not actually part of a tour operator, you're part of ATAS, which is the Association of Touring and Adventure Suppliers. So could you just explain to our viewers back home what that is and what your job involves, please, Claire?
Yeah, of course. So we were formed in 2017, so we are still quite a relatively new association, but we bring together the leading touring and adventure tour ops, which all of you here today are our members, which is great. And we bring them along with travel agents and try and make them into one big community to increase awareness on how fantastic touring and adventure holidays really are. I guess our role did develop a little bit last year, as most people's did. So we were obviously lobbying the government to support our sector through the pandemic, and also pulling together things like joint enhanced safety protocols across our members that would give customers and travel agents the confidence to book our product.
Yeah, and we'll be talking a little bit about those protocols. And of course, a large part of today's panel is we're bringing you all here together to share, like you said, our passion for touring and adventure, and share that with our viewers back home. So, I mean, as I've sort of alluded to already, some of you do have a bit of a cruising background, or you have sister brands in cruise. But obviously, with this festival, we're looking at touring and adventure travel. And so how did you, this is to all of you really, how did you get involved in touring, and what would you consider to be the biggest misconceptions about touring or adventure travel? Who would like to start this one? Any volunteers?
I'll go.
You like?
Okay, oh. You go.
Okay, I'll go then, you go. So hi Amy, thanks very much for having us. I guess my background is I've worked in the travel industry now for 22 years. Started selling holidays with Page and Moy Travel, which is a brand that a lot of people know of. And then I loved selling holidays, giving people their dream, and I moved into cruise during the boom. So actually majority of my career I've worked in cruise. But then I had an opportunity to move into touring with a specialist in solo and couple touring with Travel Stew. And I loved what the sector and our company stands for, changing people's lives through travel, because that's why we all do the job that we do in travel. Yes, is to create those dreams, create those memories, and have the customer at the heart of every decision and every holiday that they go on with us. And I love it. I've been here now for 3 years, and it's a sector that's growing, and we certainly see more and more people choosing to take a group holiday. And you'll see from everybody on here, there's such a range of holidays to choose from. My biggest myth, I guess, would be that you've got to be old to go on a tour, and that certainly isn't the case. And we'll go through that on here, because there's certainly a tour for every single person.
Excellent, thank you. And Brian, what were you going to add to that? I suppose you've got some misconceptions.
So I think it's actually twofold for me: misconception and how I ended up in this space. Headhunted about a role at G Adventures, and actually dismissed it in the first instance on the basis that my perception at the time was it was all very niche, one-man band type offerings in terms of that like adventure program. And it wasn't until I actually spent some time to look into the organization and realize that there's it's massive, company, huge product offering. And actually the breadth of that product that was available was just unbelievable. And that's you start to realize that, my misconception was that it wasn't, the size and the breadth of the product that's available out there. And it really opened my mind up to this sector in terms of, just how amazing it is, and actually diversity of it, the huge difference that I think touring offers from your traditional beach holiday, city break, or even a cruise holiday. I think is a very different proposition. And obviously being in the sector, I'm going to say, but I think actually it's a more immersive proposition as well. And I think too, the point that Sarah said, that people probably think of touring in the first instance, older people on a coach going from one place to another, and someone holding up a banner in the middle of a city centre, etc. And you know what, it's so far removed from that, it's unbelievable. But that's the sort of perception, I think, or the myth that people have. And hopefully with the festival that you're running, we'll be able to bust all of those myths and actually show that the sector is really dynamic in terms of what it does.
Yeah, I guess Ian, you're probably wanting to burst up now, because that's twice we've heard about old people and touring, isn't it? And obviously for the more mature, the vintage wines.
it gets better with age.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I would say that a couple of things. I think I totally agree with Brian's point around there's a misconception, I think, that touring is you just are whipped from one destination to another really quickly, herded around, and you don't get a chance to experience a destination. I think that across any age group, across any brand, that's not the case. They are holidays allowing people to spend time and really get to know a destination far more than you would if you are just sitting in a hotel by the beach, which we all love from time to time to take a break from the goings on of day-to-day life. But touring is a truly proper way, I think, to see a destination and understand a culture. I think on the age group point, it's really interesting. We speak to a lot of our guests who think that touring is more for the younger crowd, and they often have the misconception in their head that to go on perhaps this is because they see more of the adventure touring side of things in promotions and marketing, and they look at that and think, I'm going to go on a holiday or a tour that's just going to be with, much younger people who are going to far-flung destinations. Well, we're seeing a real rise, I guess, in that more mature traveller wanting to go to bucket list destinations. So it's interesting how the perception and myths that sit within different customer groups can be almost reversed depending on what they see and what they're used to doing day to day. So I guess, and that leads back to the point, that was made earlier around we're all here for different audiences. We all have the same goal ultimately of giving good travel opportunities to people, but there is something for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really true, because although there are some touring companies who are specifically targeted, and I know, Rachel, you've got Contiki as part of the TTC, and that's, targeted for, I'm not sure if I'm not too old for that now.
I pretend I'm not, but it's under 35s basically.
Oh, okay, I'm just within.
Yeah.
But so obviously you do have those touring companies that are specific for younger groups, and you've also got, and I think also it's funny you said that a lot of your customers think that it's for younger audiences predominantly because they see adventure travel, but if you look at the average adventure travel age, isn't it like 50 plus, Brian?
Sorry, there was some background noise, and I was just trying to make it wasn't me. So our average age for customers is about 45.
Yeah. But
then our demographic goes from an 18-year-old right the way up to, someone much older that's on our expedition cruise. So you've got a huge diversity in terms of age group, but certainly for the adventure bit, it's between that sort of 40, 45-year-old.
Yeah. And again, I think to bring back another of your points about the stuff you've already mentioned about being herded around and, the old umbrella. Hasn't the Trafalgar CEO sort of banned umbrellas on tours, Rachel?
Yeah. He's banned quite a lot of things. I think, interestingly for me, I mean, I think there is that kind of misconception that touring's not sexy, and and it's as we've all said about the challenges we've got, and I think what it actually is really innovative, and it takes people to places that they wouldn't have gone previously. It's really interesting actually, because when I came into touring from an airline background, and I came in because that's what I've always toured, I've always gone on tours. And I think and I was really surprised to sort of understand the misconceptions, because I think once people do it, then they get it, and then they can come back and get keep coming back. But I think Gavin is really he's a real force of nature, and he really is behind making touring the way to travel. I think especially after COVID as well, there's some really great things about why people should be touring, apart from the health and safety aspect, but just in terms of connecting with locals. I think a lot of us have really over this period of time have really got involved with local companies. I know I buy more local, and I'm more, and I think that's the opportunity as well. We take people to places that they wouldn't normally go, and they're always the things that people come back and make and rave about, and actually what you're doing is you're helping your local environment, you're helping communities, and you're taking people to experience the real culture of a country. It's not just going from town to town with a clipboard, which is what I think a lot of people think. It's so much different from that. And I think it's really hard sometimes to get that over to people unless they're prepared to take a a punt on it. But once they do, we see people absolutely get it. And I think that's the thing for us. I think we really need to bust that misconception and make people understand what's out there for them and what they can experience as part of it. Because I've always loved it. I love, you know, you meet new people, like-minded people. There's so many benefits to doing something like this. And I wish more people would experience it and take the leap.
Excellent, thank you. And Giles or Claire, do you have any other misconceptions? I mean, actually, especially I know you two were very cruisy prior to your. Well, I know Giles, obviously, you still got Avalon, so you're still a bit cruisy. But River, I think, is like literally a happy medium between ocean cruising and touring. I think it's like the best of both worlds. But so, how did you guys come into more of a touring arena? And what have you perhaps learned from that? And how does it compare to cruising? Would you say?
Claire.
So I was very heavily involved in cruise for the last 10 years in my previous role, but my role was over all travel. It's just that I did love cruising. And I do think that there's a lot of similarities between the products in that I think there was a lot of misconceptions with cruise. Maybe it's a little bit more understood now, but if I look about 10 years ago, cruise was only for old people. So same as what we're saying here. So I think a lot of the misconceptions are there. I think that touring and adventure probably allows you to get your teeth into a destination a little bit more than cruise does, and that's what really appeals to me. So I think that from a misconception point of view, I think there's probably one thing that kind of sticks in my mind that we might have missed, but I think that a lot of people think they're going to be stuck with people, the same people on that touring holiday, and I think that they're not maybe considering that those people are like-minded people. They're all taking the trips that they're taking, and therefore they're probably very similar anyway. But I think also there's a lot of free time on a tour. You don't have to eat with those people every night. You don't have to all sit on a big long table that you remember from the 1980s. That was a big coach party that stopped in a restaurant, and it's not like that anymore. It's changed a lot. So I think maybe that people have still got that kind of thing in their mind, and I think, like, from a cruise point of view, people also thought that they were going to eat with the same people every night, and that's not the case either. So I think there are a lot of similarities between the products, but particularly between misconceptions.
Thank you. That's really excellent point, Claire. So
I guess one of the additional bits that I think is a big misconception is that touring, you spend the whole day in a coach looking at things out the window. You get out, you have half an hour, you get told this, that and the other, back in the coach, and off you go again. And that it's a very sedentary holiday. And I think, you know, it's changed drastically. There was a time when it was much more like, but it's changed drastically. The free time that's available, the options, the sort of optional excursions, depending on the type of tour that you go on, either they're included with more active elements, or you can have options where you can go walking, where you get the free time. So if you are really active, you can go and do things. And I think most touring companies, apart from where it's just practically not possible, try and incorporate as much time off the coach or off the tour bus as possible, so you can get that time in the local destination. And I think, you know, to sort of maybe expand on some of the points already made, the giving back nature of a touring holiday, the money that gets spread into local communities, that gets spread into, you know, more pockets than just that of the one hotel of a traditional stay in one hotel holiday. I think it's a really great way of contributing to the destination that you're going and giving something back to more than just that, maybe that one hotelier. So I think it's a great way to feel that you are doing more for the community that you're going to and contributing to that community. Equally, a touring holiday is very sustainable. You know, if you were to go and hire a car and drive around all the places that you go on your coach tour, and if, say, you had a coach of 30 odd people, that's 15, 16, 17 cars that would be doing the same thing. So sustainably, it's a brilliant thing. And then all that extra information that the tour director or the tour guide or the chief experience officer, whatever people call their tour guide, all that extra information and the way it gets you into places, you get early access, you get unique access, you get unique money can't buy opportunities, all of those things, they're hard to sort of explain and talk about until someone goes on a tour and experiences that extra that you get that is invaluable. You can't read it in the guidebooks.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think it's not just the history about the places that the tour director will tell you. So those little hidden gems, those little, they'll also be there to recommend perhaps a cafe or a restaurant if you don't want to eat with everyone. Or I know my experiences, actually, we didn't have to, but we ended up eating all our meals together anyway, because like, I forget who mentioned it earlier, it's the like-minded people you're with, and you actually sort of, and actually sometimes it's meeting those people from all around the world, different walks of life, different ages. You have that similar sort of interest, which is why you happen to pick the same itinerary, and they can become like friends. And actually that's something that I've talked about in another interview I've had for this festival. And again, you've made some excellent points there, Giles. Thank you for bringing it up. Actually, the giving back to the local communities. You're actually spreading, like you said, you're being more positively towards the local economy than if you were just, say, stuck in one resort. I know Bruce Poon Tips, Luke Tell, he talks about how people who just stay in resorts, literally, you're flying out somewhere, you're staying in one resort, literally sort of like walled up away from the local community, and you're not experiencing any of that local community or that culture, and they're not getting any of your sort of, you're not really benefiting the local community, the local economy. But with a tour you are, and you're also, I guess, interacting. And what we've found, I think, particularly over the last year, is that because we're all stuck in our own homes, we're missing those connections, not just with our friends or family, but those opportunities to interact and connect with other people, to make those new connections and interact with, experience different cultures. So, I mean, we've talked a lot now about the misconceptions, which I suppose you could say is a bit of a negative thing to talk about. But on the flip side, by breaking down those misconceptions, we're looking at some of the benefits of touring and adventure travel. So, are there any other benefits or advantages of a touring trip that you'd like to add?
I think I'd like to just, reiterate that everything is looked after for customers. The attractions that they want to see, maybe some of the dining as well. It's about having that experience that you wouldn't have normally had if you travelled on your own. But, one of the biggest things for me, and I think, again, coming through, like Rachel mentioned, coming through the year that we've had, is the fact that you're accompanied by a tour manager, or whatever the different, well, all of us call it a different name, but the tour manager is there 24/7 to be there for you, to make sure the trip runs smoothly. If there's any questions or queries, they're there. So it's just that reassurance as well, that you're traveling with somebody who knows the destination, who's familiar with it, and can be there for you if you need anything. The tour manager, again, is like a beating heart of the tour, and really is there for that extra reassurance.
Thank you.
I think Amy just also go on. All right, I'll go. I was just going to call out, I think a benefit of for the solo or single traveller. I think so solo travellers make up about 20% of our guests who go on touring holidays with Saga. And I think that for people who want to go and travel by themselves for whatever reason and want to experience a destination, touring is a really fantastic way of doing it. And I think some of the stuff we've talked about around benefits of doing it were around like-minded individuals, being on a tour with people who have similar interests to you. That's a fantastic reason for a solo traveller to go on a tour. Because I think it's probably fair to say for most single travellers, there is a concern that are you going to like the people you're with? Are you going to be nervous about joining a group where you don't know everyone? Is everyone there going to be a couple, for example, and you're going to feel left out, for want of a better word? And I think that there are, most of us I think have, or all of us have, solo departures or opportunities to go on a tour where you are with single travellers, and I think that's a really great benefit of touring for that group of individuals.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, interestingly, like for me, I've travelled a lot as a solo traveller, and I think, I don't know if any of you are the same, but we see a lot of single female travellers as well on our trips. I think that's probably one of the predominant groups, and I'm one of those. And and for me, I went on a trip to Colombia and as a single female, and I think sometimes people want that kind of extra. You're with somebody who understands the destination and can really bring it to life, but also you're with a like-minded person. And actually I was in I ended up sharing with a girl from London, and we're best friends. We've spent a lot of the time beyond traveling on tours together, but we go and do things together all the time and travel around. Well, not now obviously, but in normal times. And I think that's the thing as well, you do meet people who you really have an affinity with, and then continue to travel together. So I think that's a really great benefit that I think people just don't think about a lot.
The other thing as well is there can be a misconception about solos as well, that it's all single people. And actually, you got to think about, a couple, a husband might have an interest in golf and therefore wants to go away and play golf. Whereas, their wives probably don't want to go and sit, in a hotel while their husband's playing golf for that period of time. But they will have an interest in terms of and vice versa, either way round. So the other half, whatever their one interest is, the other half's interest actually may well be to travel and see places. And therefore, if your partner's not inclined to do that, this is a great opportunity, in my view, for people to feel safe, secure, and be able to do the things that they want to do in that environment and not feel like uncomfortable in it because they're a single traveller. And I think there's that side to it that's important as well, is like, people are more adventurous, and actually more adventurous in terms of, look, I'm comfortable with you doing that thing, I want to go and do this thing. And I think solo travel within touring certainly affords for that.
Yeah. Oh, well, we absolutely see that as just you being the brand just dedicated to solo travel. I think over a quarter of our customers are actually in a relationship. So it doesn't necessarily mean, like Brian said, that you need to be single. You're just doing different types of holidays. And we offer a room exclusively for yourself, whereas other people might offer a room to share. So there's the choice there for solo travelers to choose out of all the brands that they want to travel with, but to know that they'll be looked after every step of the way. And we've certainly seen in the last year more and more solo travelers booking new holidays, looking to the future, because they're excited and nobody's lost their sense of adventure, have they? We all just want to get back out there.
There's probably more solos booking because they've got fed up with their partner being in lockdown and look at that. One of the other sort of big benefits of a touring or adventure holiday, I think, is the curation that we as companies put into creating it and pulling it together. If you were to try and do this yourself, to know, am I staying in the right sort of hotel? Is that distance achievable in the day? Yeah. Will I go the correct route to see all the right sites? Will I be able to get in when I get there? How will that all pull together? Where will I get lunch? We have teams in our businesses, all of us, spending years pulling together tours. We go and visit the hotels, we go and visit the destinations, the excursions. We quality control everything. We look at health and safety. So actually, to have all of that done, and most of the time it would come in way cheaper doing it with one of us than it would trying to do it yourself. There are so many benefits to going on an escorted tour that allows you to have all of that stuff done for you. So when you go as a customer, you're just enjoying all the fruits of the hard work that we as tour operators put in to make it, if you like, the most perfect holiday experience it can be.
I have a great example of that, actually. I had some friends that went to India and they did it themselves. So they were talking about their experience over the dinner table. And then I'd been to India on one of our G tours and started talking about my experience of India with G. And really interesting, at the end of it, a pair of them said they felt cheated because they didn't experience the same things. And actually they felt that they'd superficially experienced the very edges of it and actually hadn't really experienced the immersion of culture, the experience of trying different foods, and different. So all of those things, to Giles's point, I think they're really important factors, because you can go to places and do these things, but you just don't get the same experience because there's not the level of depth of understanding of a destination or the planning curation that's in there. And the other thing, coming back to the other aspect coupled with that, is around, the guides that are with there. In the pandemic, when it first started, it was mayhem for people to get back from around the world, because of closure of borders, airlines stopping flying, etc. And I actually think that's where companies like ourselves, this group here, where we've got this infrastructure around the world, and the guys on the ground with the customers 24/7, that's when it really comes into its own as well, because those people that weren't with companies like us, they struggled, you know, to get themselves back, and at huge cost. And that's the big difference, is when, you know, stuff like that is important in, you know, an ever-changing world, to be with a company that's got the reputation and the manpower in which to really look after the customer, you know, on the ground.
Yeah, especially if those people who did it all themselves, literally did it all themselves, and didn't even go for a travel agent, then they really would be completely stuck.
Yeah.
Especially if there's like language difficulties. You've got no.
100%.
It's so much simpler to book, you know, a touring or adventure holiday for a travel agent.
Absolutely, booking for a travel agent, because as a travel agent, you'll give the best advice for the right type of holiday, the right company for that particular client, because we all cater to slightly different segments of the market. So, you know, we're bound to say my holiday is the best. However, as a travel agent, you're going to say they're all good, but this one will suit you for these requirements that you have today.
And that's actually such an important point, because of that. They're so different, and there's, you know, there's so many different parts to the tour itself as well. And it is that absolutely matching the right person to the right tour is really key. And that's where travel agents 100% come in, you know, their worth in that respect.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to disagree there. I mean, okay, so we have sort of briefly touched on, you know, the beginning of the pandemic when it was chaos, and obviously travel at the moment is, you know, it's on pause. But there was a brief moment in time I think late last summer, when some touring companies were able to restart. I think G did, didn't you? You were able to start again. Some other touring companies did. I know not everyone did. So for those of you who were able to resume some of your tours, what sort of measures did you have to put in place to, you know, and make sure it's all set up properly? And what sort of customer feedback did you get from those trips?
So we did a few tours in North America. We did a couple in Canada. We did some in the US in some of the national parks, but we did them for Americans in the US and Canadians in Canada. We had to look at all the various protocols. We looked at reducing the numbers on the coaches. We had masks obligatory when people were in enclosed spaces or near to each other, social distancing. Work with all the hotel partners to understand exactly how they were going to run their hotels to make them sort of COVID compliant, COVID safe. We sent out rules to customers so they understood, you know, this is the expectation on this tour. And our tour directors were very good at enforcing, you know, those sort of compliance rules to make sure everybody was safe, because, you know, different people in the current situation have different levels of comfort of I guess, risk. We wanted to make sure that whatever your level of comfort of risk, that you felt comfortable on our tour. The feedback we had actually from all of our tours was extremely positive. We sent one of the directors from each of our offices on each of the tours that we ran, one, to make sure that all the things we put in place were happening, but also just to understand and get immediate customer feedback, immediate views, so that we knew, do we run this tour again next week or the week after, or do we need to stop? So there's a lot of listening to the customers, a lot of sort of pre-planning to make sure it's as safe as it possibly can be. But the feedback was exceptional. People were just delighted to get away on holiday. They all understood the rules that were in place. They understood why they were there. And actually the compliance to the sort of safety protocols was 100%. No one stepped out and said, yeah, I'm not doing that. So, you know, it was a really positive experience for our guests. It was great for us to run some tours. But yeah, we'd like to be running more.
Yeah. Sorry.
I think quite a few of our members did manage to run tours in the summer, and kind of, as Giles said, a lot of the head office team went to make sure the tours run smoothly, but also to make sure it didn't compromise the enjoyment of the tour, because obviously there is a danger that could happen. So the tours that did operate, a great story that one of them did it. I think it was a 3-night, and it was like a Belfast tour or something like that. It was quite a small, short duration, but the customer enjoyed themselves so much they actually booked 3 more tours because they felt safe. They want to get away, and to have 3 more booked just from doing that little tour is a great boost for the customer, because how exciting that you've got something booked.
Yeah, it's always nice to have someone to look forward to.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're same. I mean, we ran tours through September, as corridors were opened up, etc. Highly successful. And the same thing, I mean, a lot of planning went into those tours. To Giles's perspective, we have a travel with confidence policy that, is how we adhere to all the safety protocols around COVID. And at the same time, adherence from a customer perspective as well, in terms of understanding, their role to play in making not just themselves but the other people safe that are on the tour. But the feedback that we got was phenomenal, and again, that gave us confidence to open up more of the program as we could. And at the same time, similar sort of thing to that story, we had a customer that traveled with one of our marketing team, who'd obviously then they become really close friends, and that individual has gone on to book subsequently a number of other tours, with us. And we're still operating tours at this moment in time, Americans and North, going such like. So the propensity for people to want to go is high. It's just the conditions have to be right.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we're also seeing an increase in touring or adventure itineraries closer to home, even in the UK itself. So I suppose to some extent that's perhaps a bit of a response to the pandemic, but what other trends do you think we could see in touring and adventure? I mean, some of them are probably going to be continuations of what we were seeing before the pandemic, with an increased focus on wellness or being more active. So which do you think, what sort of trends can you see, and how are you bringing them into what you offer?
I think there's a lot of trends actually that are coming through. Some of them were in progress anyway, and I think and some of them are new, and some of them are just adapting to the current environment that we're in. So I think we're definitely seeing people wanting to do. We're seeing multi-generational travel. I think a lot of people after this will want to see their extended family and travel together. So we've put on quite a lot more focus, a lot more on groups, private groups, custom groups, looking at specialized ones as well. Some really interesting things coming through around that as well. So I think we will see people who wanting to travel in bubbles, or extended bubbles. So definitely focused on that, and we're really focused on that as well. I think people going off the beaten track. I mean, I think people, we've talked a lot about that anyway, and a lot of us offer that as part of our experiences, but we offer things like country road itineraries, so taking people to secondary towns or just out of the usual tourist trail. I think there's a lot of people who really want to focus on areas like that. And I think also people just, I think Giles mentioned it earlier, people just wanting to do the bucket list items as well, and thinking about especially if they haven't traveled for potentially 2 years, if they hadn't traveled in 2019, really wanting to go out there and do something big, and looking at slightly longer trips than we'd normally see the UK doing as well. So there's quite a lot of people who are looking for that luxury or something a bit different as well. And then I think we are seeing people want to travel, certainly this year, in the UK and Europe. So and we've got quite a lot of itineraries anyway in Wales, Scotland, and England as well. So and I know a lot of people here have also pivoted and put some trips on. So I think in the short term people will want to travel more locally to home, and that's probably a lot of what all we can do in the short term, and I think people will look at doing that. But yeah, in the longer term, I think bucket list, multi-generational, and actually private groups. So I think there's quite a lot of trends there in that area.
Thank you. Is that are the rest of you sort of finding that a lot, or have you got anything completely different?
The only thing I would say is I think that once people feel that, or once people know they can travel, that you can go to Europe, you can go to the US, you can go to the rest of the world, I think the pent-up demand, we will see it come back with a massive bang. And all the stuff that we know as tour operators for years that has worked for our customers that they've loved we will see that coming back in spades, because we all want to get back out there. We've missed it. You know, people have missed their traveling. They want to get out there, maybe in the very short term while there's still some uncertainty, you know, smaller groups and more, you know, far-flung sort of remote destinations. But all the things we've all been doing for years, customers will want to come back, and I think are going to book in their droves. I think we're going to be, you know, having to turn down bookings because there's just not going to be hotel and airline capacity. So my view is people should get on there, get out, book, decide what they want to do and get on with it, because you know, next year or the end of this year, back half of this 2021 into 2022, demand is going to way outstrip supply.
Definitely.
Yeah, you're right, Giles, and we're seeing people booking what they normally would book for 2022 anyway. I think people are confident that in 2022 that there will be you know, normality, and we're seeing a lot of USA and Canada coming through, so people still want to go and do those things, and they're just looking to sometimes to do it next year rather than you know, this year. And I think absolutely we'll see everyone want to come back and do exactly what they've done previously. Yeah.
I think to Giles' point as well. Oh, sorry, Brian, you go.
That's right. No, you carry on.
Okay, ladies first.
Very polite.
To Giles' point, we've done a lot of research with our customers. So we've asked them when they're happy to travel again, where will they want to go to? And as Giles said, the pent-up demand, the demand is there, just when the timing is right. So many of us have flexible booking policies, many of us have great offers on. So I would recommend anybody to get what you want booked, get it secured, so you've got something to look forward to as well. But demand as we move through the coming year, 22 and even into 23, will start to rise basically. And we're certainly seeing people booking from a solo travel point of view, multiple holidays as well. So where they've not had a holiday last year, they're thinking, well, I really want to go to Tuscany or whatever, but I'm also going to book that Uganda gorilla trekking trip that I've always wanted to do. It's been my dream. I've never done it. And actually, you know, I'm going to do it now because now's the time.
Yeah. And I think there are some trends that you see come through that support everything that's been said here. You know, we certainly see it in terms of like safaris. You know, I'd put them as like a bucket list trip, you know, go and do something like that. Climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, Everest Base Camp, you know, they've been really high up in terms of not just search, but bookings for us. And I think it is a factor that, you know what, travel was pretty much taken for granted by most people. I think we've had travel taken away from us, and we've realized that actually travel is a very special thing. And therefore people are sitting and thinking, you know, we've always had this want to do this, and we never really get round to it. You know, everyone's got like, I'd like to climb Kilimanjaro on a bucket list, or it's go to somewhere, you know, and they never really get round to it unless they're pushed into it for a subsequent reason. Now, I think people have sat in lockdown, travel taken away from them, and really thought about these things and said, you know what, we're doing this. Like, we are going away as a family, multi-generational, or I'm going to do that bucket list trip that I've really wanted to do. And you're going to see that in the pent up demand that's come through. And we've seen that with like active product, to your point, you know, Amy, that you were saying, people have got out during lockdown. They've gone and done things that they'd never have done beforehand, walking, hiking. You know, we see it on Facebook, even in this group, I see this lot out hiking left, right and centre. You know, so therefore the affiliation of getting outdoors and getting back to nature and actually doing physical exercise cannot be underestimated. And we've seen that high propensity of, you know, people want to do more active product with us. And it isn't young people either. You know, there's a misconception there that anything active is just for the younger people. You know, age is just a number nowadays. You know, people right the way up to 65, 70-year-old don't see themselves as old people anymore. You know, they just want to get out and do things the same as anybody else does. And I think that's led us to look at, you know, what's going to happen as we come out of this. We do think it'll be a bit closer to home, hence our European tours, you know, Ibiza, Corfu, you know, places you wouldn't expect us to go to, but they have great opportunity to do some of the things that we do, but bring something different to those destinations. But I'm with Giles. I also totally believe that there's a load of pent up demand out there. And as soon as people go, they just get going again.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something also we've been saying about the supply and demand issues. I mean, obviously, we're traditionally more cruise specialists, and you can sort of see it's a bit more fixed for cruise because you've only got so many berths per cruise. And I think maybe people might be taking for granted that, oh, they might assume that you could put on another departure for a tour, but actually there's only so many hotel beds in the world. Yeah. And what I think people do need to realise is that if they leave it too late to book something, not only will there not be, you know, the place on a tour or a cruise, because you just won't have the supply for them. The prices are going to go up at some point, potentially. So it's best to sort of book ahead and have something in place for 22 or whenever. So you've got something psychologically to look forward to, and, you know, count the days and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and I think as well, you know, if you look at all of us here, we've got very flexible you know, travel with confidence messages and flexibility as well. So, you know, if people, if you know, think, we know that it's changing, you know, every day things are changing here. So, you know, we want to be as flexible as possible with our customers and with the travel agents as well, so that, you know, if people don't feel comfortable, or, you know, or there are changes, that, you know, they can move their trip if they want to. So, but I think getting it down in the first place, you know, is a great thing, because, you know, as Giles said, the demand is going to come back quickly, and we know that you know, the best times, you know, if you book late, you just can't do the things, and especially with those bucket list trips, you know, if you want to go on the Canadian Rockies or things, you know, things like that, you know, there's only so much opportunity to do it, or supply, and, you know, you know, book now, and if you want to move it, or you need to move it at a later date, you can do that. But I think, you know, have something in the bag and have something to look forward to. I think that's more than anything as well. You know, we all need a bit of hope these days, and it's just nice to have something in the diary ready to go.
Yeah. Okay. And so, I mean, I think that's been really interesting. We've really identified some, you know, things that our customers can look out for, look forward to. So we're going to ask again, perhaps a few sort of like personal questions now. So, I mean, you've all got some amazing, you know, tours and destinations that you go to, and so this is going to be a bit of a tricky question, but what would your dream tour be to go on?
Shall I kick off? I'll go.
You kick off.
I'm the most boring individual here, so I'll kick off with something fairly plain. I think my dream would be, actually, I've wanted to do for a long time. So I went to LA, I don't know, about 6-7 years ago, and did LA and Vegas, and loved the areas. And then we spent one day down at the beach, just south down at Santa Monica. And I was amazed by it, loved it. And then regretted not doing the Pacific Highway, really regretted not doing that trip, or seeing a little bit more of it while I was there. We were a bit younger, and Vegas was calling, and we spent most of our time there. And I regret, and look back in hindsight thinking, you know, you don't get to go to places like that every day or every year. So I would like to do, might not be the sexiest, but I would like to do San Francisco down to LA, Pacific Highway, do the drive, and then probably end up in Vegas at the end of it. But yeah, I would love to spend some time doing that. Yeah, that would probably be mine.
Yeah, my mum did that, I think a couple of years ago with my dad and a Mustang, and she and my dad aren't actually massive fans of the US, but they loved it. They really loved it in California, and especially in the Mustang. You know, so yeah, this, you know, it's you know, something different. So anyone else?
I'll do, because I have to jump, unfortunately, someone's chasing me. I've actually done one of the things that was on my bucket list a year ago, and that was climb Kilimanjaro. It was something that I've always looked at as a personal challenge, want to do, seen, you know, heard other people do it and what it meant to them. And I was very fortunate to get people from the travel industry to join us and raise money in which to do it. And that experience, and it's actually a really interesting experience for me, because, you know, you work for a company, and you know, we all know that our teams are brilliant, but it wasn't until actually you see the work that these porters, you know, that the effort and the work that they put in to make sure the customers are looked after along the journey, all the small things that they do. You know, we did one of the days, you climbed the Branco wall, and it was a really long day, you know, tiring, rained, it snowed, everything hit us on that day. And I remember coming over the crest and coming down towards the camp, and all of the Killie Kings, as we call them, the porters, there was like 30 odd of them, were all singing and dancing. And it was just the most amazing thing to see. And the lift in our spirits was just phenomenal. And I remember standing back you know, and had like people like Lucy Huxley was dancing with them all, and various other people, and just a sense of pride at looking at, you know, you don't realise until you go away to some of these far-flung places. You've got people all over the world that work for an organisation, and I don't think you truly appreciate how amazing they are until you get there and see these guys in action. And that was very special for me, on top of the fact that, you know, managing to do a trip that was always on a list that I wanted to do. It was a great experience.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I know, I'm getting a bit teary. It's funny how sometimes you go on these trips and you think, oh yes, this is what I'm going to be really most excited. This is going to be the highlight. Say, go to India and you see Taj Mahal, but actually, or you know, it's actually something that you didn't expect. Perhaps a smaller moment that actually becomes the real highlight. Like for me, when I went to India, obviously Taj Mahal was amazing, but I really loved when we went to the Gurdwara in Delhi near Chandni Chowk, and we made chapatis with these local women. It's that little moment of interaction, and it's that sort of experience that you wouldn't, you know, really get every day. And it's that sort of connection, and it's that sort of thing that you really perhaps means so much more, or really sort of resonates with you, you know, more than just seeing what you perhaps expected to be the highlight of the trip.
And that's why touring's so special, because it's exactly what it does. It allows you to do those things. Coming back to what Brian was saying when he was talking to his friends, you know, you can see something superficially, or you can really get under the skin of a destination. And I think that's what it allows you to do, because you've got those kind of, we've got that knowledge and those local insights to be able to take you to see those things. And I think, you know, I feel that, you know, I was really lucky in 2019 to go to Jordan with Insight Vacations. And, you know, yes, Petra's amazing and it's phenomenal, and you know, it takes your breath away. But actually, my experience with, we take our guests to somewhere called the Iraq Al Amir Cooperative, which is a women's cooperative very close to Petra, and it's all about investing in women getting to work and provide, you know, for their families and have some self-worth in the community. And, you know, when you see what they do and you know, listen to their stories, that's the thing that really resonates with you. And actually, it's what our guests come back and say, that's the thing for me that really made the difference. And I think, you know, with Brian talking about that, absolutely, you know, that's the kind of experience that, you know, I think most people actually get more out. They think that they're going to get more out of going to Petra, but actually the reality is they get something out of that has much more touching, moving experience for them. And I think when this is kind of blows over, I've got a million places on my list, lots of things that I didn't do, but I'm desperate to go to New Zealand. I've been wanting to do it for a really, really long time, and it just keeps moving on my list. So South and North Island of New Zealand, I'm gonna go and do that. I think I haven't been able to travel. I normally travel a lot, and you know, and we've got an amazing luxury gold couple of itineraries there, and I'm like, right, that's what I'm going to go and do, and I'm going to do it. You know, I'm going to do it in the best way I possibly can, and experience it in that way. So that's what my next is. My next on my list is.
Thank you. I know some of you, you know, haven't got much time left. I know Brian's going to have to leave.
Yeah, sorry, guys.
But anyway, thanks for your time. Does anyone, but you've shared, you know, your personal experiences, which are really lovely to listen to. So does anyone else have any, like, either their next big destination or a highlight from a touring trip that they've enjoyed before that they'd like to share before our final question?
I think one of mine is, and it goes back, and it's really just looping back to everything everybody's talked about, is how when you're on a tour, how you're immersed in a community, and you actually feel that you're helping that community benefit from the fact that you're traveling there as well. So one of my favorite experiences is on a Tuscany tour that we do. And I mean, I love it. It's beautiful there anyway, the rolling hills and food, and I like to eat and drink anyway, so it's a bit of a no-brainer. But we go to this small Tuscan farmhouse, and you learn how olive oil is made, and it might sound something so simple, but it just really makes you think about, and you taste it, and then you have this amazing lunch, and you have all the pasta and the meats, and you try all the different wines, and you see how happy they are to be hosting you. And I remember just taking a step back and listening to the group, and listening to the laughter, and listening to everybody talk about what they'd seen that day. And I don't know, it just gives you that really sense of warm feeling, then it's just a memory that will stay with me forever, despite the amount of wine that they do give you on those trips. So that for me was, you know, I'd go back there tomorrow, definitely, you know, without a doubt. But my dream trip, I mentioned it earlier, is Uganda and the gorilla trek, because, you know, I've watched so many. Like Brian mentioned, we're going out trekking. I'm walking every day, going outside more, and just want to, I don't know, see something that I will never get the chance to see again in my lifetime. And yeah, so that's on my list. Well, fingers crossed.
So Giles or Claire, what would you like to share with us? Sound like a therapist then.
I think my favourite memory was expedition, kind of adventure-y, but we went to the Galapagos for my partner's 40th, and I guess my memory could be his rather than mine, really. But I was sitting on the beach faffing about, putting my flippers on, ready to get in the water. But my partner was already in the water, and a sea lion had followed him into the water, and they told us to kind of spin round in the water, and they would play with us. But up to that point, we hadn't really done that. And I was just standing on the beach watching my partner just kind of spin in the water, and the sea lion was chasing him, and it was really lovely. But I don't know if you know, but spinning around with a sea lion is absolutely exhausting. So so my partner got out, and the sea lion actually followed him and tried to, like, it looked like he wanted him to come back in the water, and it was like probably just the cutest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. But not because anyone was forcing the sea lion to do it or anything like that. It was just that he wanted to play, and it was just so memorable. It was just beautiful.
Oh, you made a friend.
I would like to have brought him home, if I'm honest.
I get, you know, through customs of that.
Yeah, exactly.
A dog instead.
Maybe
a dog instead.
But I probably, like everyone, I could, you know, bore everyone for days with the holiday experiences. But last year, actually during the sort of whole pandemic, I managed to get with with my oldest son and my wife, and we went and walked the Tour de Mont Blanc, which is a trek around the Mont Blanc range, and just the most amazing sort of activity experience of views. You don't get blasé about it, but you're just seeing glaciers and mountains and everything day in, day out for days. A great physical challenge. And currently I'm reading a book called The Pants of Perspective, which is about a lady who ran from the bottom of South Island of New Zealand right up to the top of North Island, 3,000 odd kilometers. And, you know, so I'm not sure I want to run it all, but something like that, like a big, long trek, you know, taking 2 or 3 months and doing something quite extreme. So maybe through the US national parks or through Canada or something. So that's sort of on my bucket list, but I might have to wait till I retire for that.
Yeah, so I mean, I think we've just seen just a few examples of how diverse touring and adventure can be, and some of what can be offered on it. So a final little question. So obviously we've got people viewing back home, some of whom might never have like toured before. So to someone considering perhaps going on their first tour or adventure trip, what advice would you give?
Speak to your travel agent.
Right.
Just book it. Give it a go. Try it.
I think give it a go, because I think once people do, then they will continue to do it. And I think, you know, I think that's what I would say to people, because having experienced it myself, and obviously I'm not, you know, I have several times, and just what you get from it is just more than you could ever expect.
Excellent.
I think there's something about being clear what you want. Do you want active? Do you want more sedentary? Do you want lots of sites? Do you want more countryside? So almost writing down your dream of the type of things you want to do rather than where you want to go. And then the travel agent can help you decide where you want to go and who to travel with. Because I think, you know, the type of person you are will define the experience that you want to have.
Yeah, and then it's our role to then match-make them with the right, you know, not only the right itinerary, but the right company offering the itinerary. So yeah, so I think we've had a really, you know, a good chat. We've had some laughs. We've had a few little tears. And thank you all so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and I hope, and I'm sure that our viewers at home really enjoyed it as well. So, and also thanks to everyone at home for watching our expert panel. I hope they found it informative and interesting like I did. So again, thank you everyone, and hopefully see you soon, and hopefully not much longer on a Zoom thing. Be nice to see everyone again face to face one day.
Yeah.
One
Thanks,
day.
Amy.
It's coming.
Thanks, Amy.
Thanks, Amy. Take care.
Bye all.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, I certainly hope that you enjoyed that, and perhaps it inspired you, perhaps it made you rethink about touring or adventure travel. Perhaps you've seen it in a different light. Some of those myths you might have believed in have been busted for you, and perhaps you might like to take their advice. So if you do have any questions about touring or adventure travel and you'd like to find out more, Team Select, of course, will be happy to help. So just give us a call on 01234 326 778, or of course you can always email us, sales@cruiseselect.co.uk, and we'll be more than happy to help. But for now, thank you so much for taking the time to watch our expert panel, and again, I hope you enjoyed it. So thank you and take care.